let's talk about teacher stuff another time. I can tell you some things.
I bet you could.
Let's make sure our technology's working and that we can record our meeting and get started. Let's see. Beatrice, I was
Recording
waiting
in
for
progress.
recording in progress. All right, welcome to the Norwich Select Board regular meeting, Wednesday, August 13th, 2025. I'm Mary Layton, Board Chair. To my right is Kimo Riggs, Vice Chair. And to his right is Priscilla Vincent. Marcia Callaway's attending on Zoom, and so is our town manager, Brennan Duffy. So we're hoping to have a nice, efficient meeting today. We could start with the agenda. And are there any changes or questions about the agenda? Priscilla?
Just one question. Item 8 is Tracy Hall Initiatives update. There wasn't anything in the packet about that, correct?
No.
Okay.
There will be much more on the 26th. We could just do a preliminary chat, or
Okay.
we could take it off. If you'd rather, if people would rather have that with more information, we could do that, or we could just
Well,
have a brief
maybe
chat about direction.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Okay.
But I don't think we're going to make any major decisions.
I hope not without paperwork.
No, we can't.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I'm fine.
Okay. Could I have a motion then, please?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
And a second?
Second.
I think it's good.
Vote. Have to be roll call on this. Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, and Kimo?
Yes.
And Priscilla?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, so as presented. Number 2 is the chair's report. I met to set the agenda. Met with the town manager to discuss the purchasing policy. Wanted to update that with some fairly minimal changes. But then in the middle of, after we got all prepared to do that, the LCT kind of popped up with a new procurement policy that's much more comprehensive.
Oh,
So Brennan and Barry are reviewing that, but there is, we don't want to let it go for months. So that will probably come back maybe August 27th or maybe in September. Let's see. Brennan and I tried to think about how we could make our meetings a little shorter. He's willing to be a timekeeper. I don't know, sometimes our times are a little bit aspirational, So, but between Brennan, being willing to keep track of the time and we'll try to be realistic about what time we need. So that's what happened there. Next, number 3 is public comments for items not on the agenda. They're public. Irv Tomei, you'd like to come up?
Thank you. Irv Tomei, 528 New Boston Road. And as you know, I have the honor of representing Norwich on the governing board of the East Central Vermont Telecommunications District, which does business as EC Fiber. I just wanted to reassure the board and the public that despite the misinformation, which was sent to the board in letter form unsigned in mid-July by a public relations firm, and then subsequently published in the Valley News over the signature of the then CEO of a company called GWI. I wanted to reassure the public that we are taking all appropriate steps to maintain our service to all of our customers, which we take a responsibility we take extremely seriously. And if I may, I'd just like to summarize the issue here. ValleyNet, a nonprofit, helped create EC Fiber and operated EC Fiber initially. When we reformed as a district, we entered in a new contract with ValleyNet, which was scheduled to end and is still scheduled to end on December 31st of this year. About 3 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, the ValleyNet board, which had dwindled and was volunteers, decided that they'd like to retire. And at that time, we had a very cordial relationship with this company from over in Maine that calls itself GWI. That's short for Great Works Internet. I think legally they're Biddeford something or other. Anyway, about a year and a half, things began to change at GWI. And we've been negotiating. We negotiated with them for a full year or more, trying to reach agreement on terms for a renewed contract, which would begin January 1st. We could not come together. The issue is, after all, we are funded with municipal revenue bonds. And our covenants with our bondholders require that our excess of revenue over expenses run to 1.25 times our annual debt service. That's hard and fast. We've got to meet that requirement. And we've been able to do that under the terms of the contract that existed. We also, our governing board has to retain control over basic policies and indeed rates. GWI wanted enormously more money. We were paying what seems like a laughable amount, $10 a year per customer. And we were willing to consider tripling that, but we pay directly all the payroll and all the operating expenses. All of them are funneled through GWI to us. Our treasurer pays all that. That's not what's at issue here. But GWI wanted a new contract, which would amount to, it could have cost as much as $2 million a year more. And we couldn't do that and maintain that margin of operating revenue over operating expenses that's required to our bonds. We spelled that out, and they've just attempted to bully us into a new contract. So what we started doing several months ago is organizing a new nonprofit similar to ValleyNet, except that this nonprofit's board of directors will be paid. They'll be professional business people who will have they'll compensated for their fiduciary duty to manage.
Sounds like you have a major conflict, and you were treated very unfairly in the press and by this company. You've found a solution.
Well, we're still working on it.
Solution.
We've gotten, we went to court for a preliminary injunction. The judge ruled in our favor on all the points that we sought. And there's still some conflict over exactly what the judge's order means. We think it's quite clear, but the attorney for the other side doesn't. So this is ongoing, but we want to assure the public that our top priority is maintaining the service of which we're so proud, and also maintaining that service with people who are local. Now, in the near term, if GWI decides after December 31st that no contract, they won't let their people work for us, we may have to bring in some folks near term from away, but we're looking again toward local support of a local community institution for the benefit of the community. And that's what I came here to reassure folks about.
Thanks so much for the update.
Thank you.
Priscilla, if we're through with her, can I make some public comment?
Sure.
As a dedicated pedestrian in town, I am absolutely delighted to see that the crosswalks have been newly striped, and there's a fog line along the new pedestrian corridor, which makes me feel safer when I walk there, because you don't have drivers thinking, oh, it's just a big wide shoulder for me to go out.
Wonderful.
If I may, I'd like to make one other point. Since I haven't been able to get this on the agenda, we cannot discuss it, which has to do with the financials, but it's in the packet, and the board is aware that I've been trying to get an answer about some of the bookkeeping errors, and I would just like permission to ask the town manager yes or no if those have been corrected. That would be specifically the $700,000 surplus and the hold harmless and the Vermont land use tax. And I'd just like to know if that's been corrected. Yes or no? We can discuss at another meeting if it's on the agenda.
I think let's discuss that at our next one, because it was going to have a dedicated agenda item for that. And I know Matt was interested and he cannot be here tonight.
I just thought it was a simple question whether the error has been corrected by now.
Well, you could also just ask him that, right?
I would like to have this as public as possible. Let's put it that way.
Are you, okay, well, we had agreed to an agenda item to talk about your concerns, but also wanted to include Matt.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll talk about it next
We
week.
could do it next
Oh,
time.
I mean, next week, next time. Yeah, okay, fine, done.
All right, now Chemo, did you have
Oh, I
a
just had a
comment?
quick question for her.
Question for her?
Wondering, by a way, do you mean we might have to hire people from New Hampshire?
We don't consider New Hampshire very far away.
That's a gracious answer. Okay, are there any other public comments?
Madam Chair,
I'm sorry. Jan, yes, go ahead.
yeah. If I may, I'd like to make a few comments on something that's on the correspondence, just because that'll be at the very tail end of your meeting. And
Okay.
that relates to capital planning. I put a memo in around the capital planning decision made in the last planning commission meeting. And so at that meeting, we decided to move forward with a capital planning activity that would add essentially a chapter to the town plan. That is one of our duties and that we felt needed to be added in. It hasn't been done in several years. So really one of the main messages is that we would hope in order to get any activity like this done, it would have to be a concerted effort, including the select board and the town manager and town staff. And that's a process that really we're just asking for time on a future agenda to be able to discuss that, the entire issue. By statute, the first step in that process is to draft what's called a utilities and facilities plan, which is really it's a statement of the existing conditions, an inventory of capital assets, everything from sidewalks and police cars to, fire trucks and culverts and so forth. And so the first step of that would be, and we have a couple volunteers from the Planning Commission who are willing to do some legwork and do the first round, which would just be go to town departments and ask, what do you have? And just start the process of building a comprehensive picture of what's out there for previous already. I know we have something on sidewalks. I'm sure the fire department has all their stuff. And so I just want to put that on the table. One, to get some agenda time in the future with you, and two, to ask whether or not it's possible for planning commission members to have 5 minutes of town staff time to start that inventory process.
Okay. Marcia?
Yeah, hi, Jan. I'm really kind of confused about this because my understanding of statutes and the reading of the state planning manual is that basically what you're doing with a capital plan in the planning commission realm is trying to figure out how you're going to fund the improvements in public facilities and infrastructure, not, fire trucks and dump trucks and all that stuff. And so it seems to me from my past reading of the town plan, we didn't have any projects outlined. And, as the manual says, while capital planning may seem like a purely an accounting exercise for municipalities to manage public facilities, It's a powerful implementation tool when used to fund priority projects that move the community closer to the vision and the plan. So it seems to me, we need to know the goals and you need to have them in the plan. So you might need to update your plan first. So in other words, you kind of are trying to put the cart before the horse. Because I don't see anything in your plan that says, this is a project and we want to fund it, which you would then come to the select board and say, okay, so this is what we want to do. How are we going to fund it?
My read of the statutes and the three elements of capital planning, capital program, which is the full 5-year overview, capital plan, which is a 1-year rolling piece of that, utility and facilities plan, which, as the thing I pasted in the memo, is a map and statement of present and prospective facilities and public utilities, and includes public sites, buildings and facilities, and then water supply, sewage, refuse disposal, storm drainage. So it is the planning aspects. The way somebody put it in the discussion, which I thought was good, is you have your town plan, and then you have a subset of those activities that require capital to be done. So sidewalks, you might have a transportation plan. Clearly, you need capital to do that. You have the septic, town sewage, town water. So, and the reading of the enabling statute is you can't do the capital plan unless you have a utility and facilities plan. So I don't think
So, yeah,
for the boards, I think.
Jan?
Yes.
Jan and Marcia, I think we should have an agenda item because the questions, I think, are complex. So, I think it sounds like we got very different view of the statutes, a view of what can be done. I think, if town staff were involved, we're going to need our town manager's input on what is reasonable as far as interactions between the volunteers and staff. So I think we definitely need an agenda item. Marcia, did you want to?
Yeah, I'm
That's
not
another-
disagreeing at all. I'm not disagreeing at all with the statutes. But I am saying that they require that you have a town plan that has some specificity. So that's my distinction. But I do think we need to have it as an agenda item.
Yes, because I think it's complicated and we won't do a good job in our public comment section to do it justice. So, but thank you for bringing it up. And I noticed there was other late breaking correspondence on the
Yeah, that's part of
on
an
the
agenda
handbook.
item. That's in the handbook agenda item. We can speak during that agenda item.
Okay,
This was correspondence and not on the agenda, but yeah, if you
Yes.
can, as you're prepping agendas, just let us know and we'll have planning commission representatives at your meeting.
that sounds great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. I guess we'll move on to the zoning bylaws, the draft of the bylaws. And I thought we had a very positive public hearing at our last meeting. Are there any questions? Kimo, did you have some questions?
I did. When it's, there are no maps, correct, included in this document?
So Stephen, do you want to come up and answer questions?
I want to make sure I didn't.
Stephen True, zoning administrator, planning director. There is a very minimal change to the zoning districts. It was a zoning district map. It was when it stems from the 2009 adoption. There was some request by owners of 2 lots that they be included in the village district and they're adjacent to it, as opposed to the rural residential district. And that was approved by the select board at the time, but the maps were never uploaded into the state resources
To reflect that little
to
job.
reflect that little change. So to answer your question, yes, but also no.
Yeah, I'm just, in reading this document, it would have been helpful to have something to refer to or a link or, because we're referring to things that are boundaries and there's nothing
I agree. I agree.
minor. I would just make sure I hadn't missed.
Yeah, yes.
I did have a couple of questions. One is on page 5 of your document. I think it's D. It says all uses not specifically allowed under or exempted from the provisions of these regulations are prohibited. And I couldn't make my brain understand how something exempted could also be prohibited. Is that? So I wondered if you can make sense of just that.
There are structures and uses that are exempt from municipal regulation. The district standards have lists of permitted and conditional uses. And generally in practice, if a use that's being requested is not in that list, then it's outside of our bylaws, so therefore we would consider it prohibited. One of the efforts, some of our efforts have been to correct that. We now have the ability of the DRB to consider other conditional uses. So use, and that's fairly standard. That authority to have the DRB review uses based on some criteria, similarity, impacts to the neighborhood, and it's described as, in the document. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, all uses exempted from something are prohibited.
Maybe that's not the best phrasing.
Yeah, yeah, okay, well, you've got an explanation. Also, I think in B, you've got clearing is not allowed before getting a permit. How is clearing of land that's currently woods and somebody goes in and makes a clearing? Are they allowed to do that without a permit?
It depends.
But that's-
Forestry does fall under the Department of Agriculture's required agricultural practices. So all required agricultural practices are exempt from municipal regulation. I think the way that word works in the place that it's in is to, provide a comprehensive bounding of activities that you shouldn't be doing prior to getting a permit.
Right.
Felling dead trees on your property. That's, I don't think there's any intention to prevent that. I think the idea is to, I've heard sort of anecdotally from, Kevin Geiger, concerns of people clearing wood, saying they're just, these are forestry practice, but really what they're doing is sort of site work, sort of pre-subdivision or pre-construction.
Was that a concern here or am I?
No, I don't think it's a concern.
Okay, good enough. Thanks. And there was just one, I think on page 1, there's just a funny, sorry, I went through it all again. There's again, B, except as specifically exempted by law or by these, no land development may be commenced. So I think you need maybe to add a word that by these rules or these. To specific.
Yes, I think you're correct. I would suggest that that's a minimal correction, a typo in essence. So, but yeah, thanks for pointing it out. I like good grammar. So
outstanding document.
thank you. I still think there's room for improvement, but we're working on it.
That was it. Those are my questions.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. Very good. Any questions from people on Zoom?
Yes. Marcia?
Okay. Yes, thank you. Marcia, your background's very dark. That's why I didn't see your hand, but go ahead.
Sorry. So I have a couple of concerns. One is, and I'm fully expecting these won't get corrected, but I'm going to state them because I am concerned about them. There's broad authority given to the DRB to grant special exceptions or variances for PUDs on page 83, which to me seems, kind of abrogates the whole idea of having zoning districts. Second concern, the attempted disclaimer of liability, which is phrased as a warning on page 76. Governmental immunity isn't necessarily absolute, and some of these types of attempted disclaimers are void as against public policy. And so, I think it's always a good idea to have counsel look at things like that, and especially when you're talking about doing things. I'm very worried about water. And, when you talk about doing things on the Bloodbrook watershed and next door neighbors in another town could be flooded, I'm not sure how far that kind of a disclaimer is going to get you. Number 3, it refers to on page 24 of the Norwich subdivision regulations, the private highway specifications. I looked those up. The only ones that I'm aware of are from 2003. Well, the world has changed a lot since 2003, unless there's some new ones out there. But this one calls for certain dimensions of culverts and things, and I'm just wondering, and 25-year storm calculations, I'm wondering if that's sufficient for today. Maybe they've been looked at, but I have to wonder if they're still valid given the change in the climate and the increase in flooding. And fourth, I think we should start now the practice of allowing residents to vote bylaws, because I think people need to pay attention to what's happening in their town, and these can change the complexion of the town. It can change the liability of the town in terms of, we don't want more Hemlock Road situations. And then just as a comment for future amendments, I've mentioned the need for maps. I think maps are critical, so I'd like to see them in there. And I'd also like to see a red line showing any changes and annotations of changes of law, so that we're really understanding what's being changed, what's new, and what's being added because of law.
Stephen, would you like to?
Yeah,
Like
Fine,
to-
Dave.
firstly, thank you, Marcia, for your,
Can I take a shot at it,
And also on.
Stephen, just for
Um,
starters?
Well,
I'll defer to you.
go ahead, Jan.
I mean, what I wanted to say, to give it context, I'm not questioning or disagreeing with any of Marcia's comments. What I was hearing was comments about really pieces of the bylaws that we didn't address or change in this go round. And I think the context of this was to be looking very carefully and selectively for updates that needed to be done to be in compliance with statute. And we talked about that in the presentation. So clearly this was not a look at every word and every piece and make it perfectly where we wanted it set of changes. This was a bundle one of the urgent, get it up to date ones. And we already have a parking lot of the next things we want to look at. So I think, yes, you could definitely, Stephen, I know, has a list of plenty of things he would like to look at again. So I would take that on as, yes, thank you, and get them on that list. And then I would say, in terms of the voting, I guess I would lean towards the import of the changes. And clearly, a town plan or a set of zoning bylaws changes that really made substantial policy changes, I would support going to a public vote. If it's at least this one, for example, where it's relatively straightforward cleaning up of bylaws, I think the select board is perfectly and the planning commission obviously is perfectly qualified to approve them.
So it sounds like the impression I've gotten is that the changes being suggested are mostly flowing down from the state. They're just, we'd have to do them anyway. But there's going to be another effort to go back and look at details, which, you know, for instance, Marcia has already found 3 or 4 areas that concern her. So I think that, to me, passing this tonight, I would advocate to do that as a first step. But, you know, when the planning commission returns to do those other changes, I think Marcia might be correct that the public should be more involved, and perhaps it should be a public vote rather than select board approval. I think that's just a fair way to handle it. So any other comments or questions or?
Can I follow up?
I mean, I can respond to a couple of points that Marcia made.
All right, yeah, let Stephen respond and then Marcia.
Yeah, firstly, yeah, I absolutely agree that this next round will provide red line and annotation. That's the best practice, and you know, I wish we had done that with this one. Your first point about the PUD, there is a significant difference between a variance and a waiver, and while it seems subtle, it's actually quite important to understand. The PUD is designed in statute to allow for waivers of dimensional standards, as it's a sort of de facto portion of that process, of that review process. A variance is a very difficult, you know, contains very difficult criteria, and it's certainly important not to confuse those two topics. A waiver is not a variance. A PUD allow for waivers of dimensional standards. The second,
Stephen?
you know, yes.
So this says PUD exceptions or variances. And you're saying that's different? That's not right? They should be waivers? That's page 83.
Does it use the term variance?
Yeah,
Yeah, it should be a waiver. A variance is a different set of criteria that you have to demonstrate.
So this is existing language, I would think, that might be revisited.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
second
Yeah, this
part of
is
the
not
process.
something we changed.
Yeah, we didn't look at you know, take an in-depth review of all of our review processes during this modernization round.
Right.
can I ask a
Stephen,
follow-up?
Yeah, go ahead, Marcia.
So just to be clear, if the statutes prohibited something that's allowed in these bylaws, why wouldn't the statute take precedence and the bylaws wouldn't hold? I don't see exactly why.
I think there was a misapprehension in the original writing of the you know, in 2009 of, you know, the sort of present state of the land use regulations. That should never have been a variance. The planned unit development process is designed to grant planning commissions and zoning boards of adjustment and development review boards the ability to waive dimensional standards within their subdivision regulations to promote innovative design, essentially, such as, you know, clustering of homes, preservation of open space. A variance is, you know, essentially a statement with a set of criteria that essentially demonstrates that the proposed use can only exist outside of the present zoning regulations. It's a, you know, it's a common misapprehension. So I think, you know, thank you for pointing that out.
Sure, but
And-
my question is, if the things that you want to change in these particular bylaws tonight by approving them, if statute prohibits whatever is in here, and I can't tell the difference. I don't know what statutes have changed so that these bylaws would no longer be valid. I don't understand why the statute wouldn't prevail anyway, and I just think that this seems like you're moving ahead more quickly than you need to.
Can I
And
I
I'm
address
seeing
that?
Beyond's hand up. Do you want to respond to Marcia?
Yes, I think, and we had this discussion in the planning commission, and the point really is, if an applicant looks at our regulations, our current standing regulations, and says, oh, I want to make an ADU that's a certain size, or a certain, wants to do something, and looks on our regulations and it says you can or you can't, and they go and they ask Stephen, he has to speak to our current regulations. So he will look and he'll say, no, you can't do that. And then they or their lawyer will go look at the statutes and come back and tell us, well, no, you're wrong. I can do that. It's legal. And so you get this disconnect between what we are saying and what is legal. And if there are easy ways to clean that up so that that doesn't happen, we felt it was worthwhile to do that rather than leave that conflict, because you could easily have an applicant think they could do something or weren't allowed to do something that was now legal, but conflicted with our regs. And we're trying to fix that quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, you're good, Marcia? Okay, and
Wouldn't go
Stephen,
so
did you
far as
say?
good.
So far, so good, okay.
No, I said I wouldn't go as far as good.
Oh, okay, but no further
And-
questions?
I understand, yes.
Okay. All right, and Stephen, have you had enough
Yeah.
to say? Okay. All right. Priscilla?
It sounds to me as though we should approve these things tonight so that we're in compliance with things that actually they can do, kind of situation Jan pointed out. And the planning commission is saying, we're not finished with this, but we're just trying to do the housekeeping and bring it up to date on these things that are important, and we will continue to work on it. And I think, fine, we're approving it as a work in progress. I think that's good.
Yeah, I think that's been my understanding.
Yeah.
Timo, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I compared this with your old document. I sat on the old document, it brought me up just the right height. And I think what this does is it supports the type of improvements and development we'd like to see the town, that everyone from all the committees says the town would like to see, while reducing the number of words you have to read to get there. So it's very positive development from my perspective.
All right. Are we ready to vote? We're ready to entertain a motion.
I move to adopt the town of Norwich land use regulations and the Norwich subdivision regulations as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, now we'll do our voting. Marcia, how do you vote?
I just don't feel comfortable, so I understand what they're trying to do. I'm just not comfortable. So
Is that a no? A no?
it's a no.
Okay. And Timo
Yes.
and Priscilla,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So it does pass. Step one is done.
Thank you very much.
The rest,
Thank you.
a lot of work.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I just add, I hope that this work
Yes,
continues at a pace, because I'm not against this. I just want to I feel very conflicted about approving something that still has so many problems. So I hope you're
Yes.
able to move at a pace.
Yeah, I
exactly.
totally
Heard.
good at the planning commission level. And I think what we're approving here are the changes. We're not approving everything else that's left as being happy with it. And I think that is a common understanding across the board. And there is definitely a desire to keep this moving and keep cleaning things up.
Good, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks, Steve.
okay. Now, Agenda item number 5 is the Select Board Handbook. And we did receive a correspondence not in the packet from Planning Commission because of timing of meetings. That has to do with the solar siting committee charge and the affordable housing subcommittee charge. So, select board members, do you want to consider that communication tonight?
Yes. Please.
We could read it into the record, I think. Since it didn't make it to the packet, we could just read what it says or have Jan read what it says.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Marcia?
I think that this is going to be it's an organic document and it's going to be changing all the time. I don't have a problem with reading something into the record and adding it at this stage. I think we should be adding to it all the time.
Okay, very good.
I just have one thing I would suggest for the solar siting. The other subcommittees have all proceeded in terms of their charge with under the umbrella of the mother commission or committee.
Oh, I see. So minor language change.
Yeah, I would be fine with that, and we left it in the affordable housing
Yeah,
subcommittee one. So that same set of words that is the intro to the affordable housing one can be ported over to solar siting.
sounds good.
So it sounds like select board members agree. So Jan, could you read the document regarding the solar siting committee charge? Read it into the record.
Yes, just a second. Let me.
Find it, right?
Have it. So
Or I
this
could-
is the charge of the solar siting subcommittee, and we can add that, the wording from the front under the
Under the
statute
umbrella.
limits of the planning commission. This committee will work to 3 bullets. First bullet, ensure that the town plan provides clear, accurate guidance regarding the development of solar energy projects in the town of Norwich, guided by the laws of the state of Vermont, bearing in mind the town's character, topography, location of critical utilities, and desires of all its residents. The solar siting committee subcommittee will define in the town plan clear criteria for any solar project requiring Public Utility Commission Section 248 process review. Second bullet, the solar siting subcommittee will engage with other town groups such as the Energy Committee, the Conservation Committee, and will continue to welcome input during its meetings to hear feedback from the members of the public. And third bullet, the solar siting subcommittee will provide input to the efforts of the Planning Commission to develop an enhanced energy plan for the town of Norwich.
And do you want to, this is a question for select board members. It does say approved by Planning Commission, August 12th, 2025. Do we want to have that date in there? It might be handy to know when it was devised or not.
We haven't for others, but I don't know that it's harmful.
It's probably fine, right?
It
Yeah.
might be useful in that there was a charter, a full 2-page charter that was approved by the Planning Commission about 2 years ago. This is a condensed version that takes into account some of the work that's already been done. So the fact that we're updating it and approving a new version from the Planning Commission is probably useful information.
I
And-
think that's useful.
We can also, we can use that sort of standard when we have other changes in the future.
Mhm.
And so in some cases, bullet 2 and 3, it says committee instead of subcommittee. So when I put that in the handbook, I'll correct that.
Yes,
Okay.
it's on
Okay.
in all 3 bullets, actually.
Okay, and as far as are we done with the solar siding one? And as far as the affordable housing charge, I didn't look carefully to see if that matched what's already in the handbook. Do you know, Marcia?
No, we changed, and I can tell you what we changed. So that first sentence is the same. We removed after the words town manager, there was a list of something like, and all other committees and groups in town. We clipped it after town manager. So it says work with planning commission, town planner, select board, and town manager on issues related to, and we added the word affordable in
Okay.
housing. Those are the only two changes made to
So
the.
those are the edits. Maybe you could just read the whole thing in since it's a different language. Now it's short, so.
Yeah, so under the umbrella of the Planning Commission statutory duties, it is the charge of the Affordable Housing Subcommittee to provide recommendations and guidance to and work with the Planning Commission, Town Planner, Select Board, and Town Manager on the issues relating to affordable housing in Norwich.
And you have the approval there, approved by Planning Commission,
By Planning
August
Commission.
12th, 2025.
Yep.
So again, the date. Does that sound acceptable to Marcia? I see your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question. For the solar siting committee, you did say, and they'll talk to all these other groups. So I'm curious why you didn't want that for the affordable housing.
I think is Jeff still here? I know he had been at a previous conversation with the select board. Actually, I believe there was a select board comment. I don't see him. Jeff Lubell had reported that in the previous select board comment, there was actually discussion around that issue. I think the subcommittee's job is to really interact closely with the planning commission. It's not a big deal if we want to leave that in. I did not hear strong feelings in the planning commission against it. It was more clean it up and that he reported on a select board comment from a previous discussion. So I think it's up to you if you want to put it back in, which I think would leave it the way that you have it in there, except for the addition of the word affordable, which the subcommittee wanted to emphasize.
I think it's,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Marcia.
I can't remember particularly that's the discussion, but I do think it's important. These are such critical things, you know, I'm just thinking the climate and everything. So to me, it's important that there's a lot of interaction, that people are talking to the other groups because there might be something that's critical. And the select board and even the town manager might not know about something that should be, you know, sort of considered. But that's my feeling. I don't think it's a deal breaker either way, but I would like to encourage dialogue.
Well, it wouldn't prevent dialogue to leave it the way it is.
No, but I just think to some extent, maybe people almost need a checklist, you know, if we're doing this, who in town do we need to talk to?
How do others feel about this language?
It seemed okay to me. I'm listening to the reasoning. It brings up some other issues for me that are larger than that. But I don't see how that particular language is inconsistent with the other language in this document. But it seemed very similar.
Okay, so you're okay with the language as presented tonight by Jan?
I think I am.
Okay. How about you, Priscilla?
Yep, I'm okay with it.
All right, I'm okay with it. I think it's nice and simple, and it doesn't prevent people from talking to others. I think it's important. Also think the solar siting, I see more of maybe a need for the solar siting committee to talk to conservation and energy and so forth because of the type of technology that's being brought in, and that it might not be subject to the same requirements that a house would or an accessory dwelling unit. you know, that already has its own set of regulations. So I see the reason to put it in solar and then the reason to keep things simple and to keep it out of the affordable housing. So that's how I feel about it. Okay, so it sounds like we're okay on the solar, and I don't know, do we need to vote on the other, or are we okay with a consensus that we keep the language? How do you feel about it, Marcia?
I'm okay with the consensus. I trust that people will talk. And I do think.
Okay, I think they will. Pretty
Okay.
Yeah,
talky town.
I am going to just add these two once everybody has a consensus. I'm not sure that it's necessary to vote for them.
Okay. So it sounds like we agree with the additions. As far as the rest of the select board handbook, does anybody have a question on other items that were added or other features?
I,
Go ahead, Kimo.
I'm not nervous, but what exactly are we adopting when we adopt the select board handbook? I have a concern that it will become a reference that people will point to rather than pointing to the statute or the website or other town documents. And that seems to me to be a danger, that we have this handbook that is now becoming the law in people's minds. So I want to ensure that we don't adopt this in the sense that there are things in here which are references to other things, but these become our truth. So when we adopt it, I'd like to adopt it as a reference document.
As a guide and reference, yeah.
Yeah, just to be very clear, there are, there was a question about advisory versus non-advisory status should be addressed to the town council by the town manager. That's stated in here.
Mhm.
And so if we adopt this, is that now a requirement?
I think if there's confusion, although I don't think definitions are in statute are really that hard to understand.
Yeah, okay.
Also, I don't know about truth, because truth is like whatever, but we
Yeah.
cannot do anything against Vermont statute. We just, I mean, if we did that in the handbook, we're really,
Yeah.
in trouble. But I think it's a guide if you have not encountered the municipal government in Vermont. It's a good reference. It's got
Great reference.
the glossary
Yeah.
and explains a lot of, how things work in town. So
It's impressive.
it is impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, so no changes to anything specific other than adding the solar siding and affordable housing? Okay, so in that case, if we approve this, do we want to sign off on it at the next meeting when we see a final copy, something like that? Or how should we, what will our process be for adopting this? What do you think, Marcia?
I think first to address Kimo's comment, all this is doing is collating or putting together the stuff that people wonder about, right? It's the statutes. But loads of people, from the time I started doing this work, people would say, well, who does what? Who does that? Or why doesn't the select board do this? Well, because it's not the select board's jurisdiction. And so all this was intended to do was to put together in one, hopefully fairly easy, look for the topic that you're interested in, and hopefully there will be statutes that tell you what's supposed to happen. This is not, we're not a legislature, and as Mary says, if something in here is wrong, we know what takes control. It's the statutes. So it's meant to be a helpful resource for folks. It's also meant to be an organic document. So if we approve it tonight, it doesn't stay static. It has to change. When the open meeting law changes again, it's going to have that, change reflected in here. And I know that's a concern too about how that's going to be done, but I think this board can figure that out going forward. And with a savvy town manager to help, we should be fine.
Emo?
Well, I guess
I-
my question is, we just adopted some bylaws and regulations. And the
Yeah.
language of adoption is sort of specific to me too. I'd be more comfortable if we approved this for use by the town. I'm not quite sure why we have to adopt it. I'm not worried about you. I think this is an impressive document. It's amazing. But I worry 5 years, 10 years down the road, somebody looks at this, oh, this got adopted. You guys adopted this, and it gets misrepresented as, a legal document rather than guidance. That's my only concern. Is there a need to adopt it? I mean, it's here. We can use it today.
So if the motion read, I move to approve the select board handbook, you'd feel more comfortable.
I would personally, but.
All right, so let's hear.
I do not mean to denigrate the.
No, it's important to talk about these things. Marcia, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, anybody can put together a collection of statutes. But it shouldn't necessarily go on the town website or be handed out to folks. I think the only benefit here is for the select board to say, we approve this as sort of a reference guide for people in town. It does not abrogate the need to get legal counsel or to look at the statutes yourself, and it says that in the book, in the handbook. But I do think that if we're going to put it on, if we're going to hand it out to new committees, if we're going to put it on the website, we should at least approve it.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
so Marcia, you'd be okay with just changing the language? I move to approve
Yeah.
rather than adopt. Okay,
Yeah.
Priscilla?
Okay.
What if we change the motion to say, I move to approve the select board handbook as an organic reference?
Oh,
Does that?
To include seed packets and things. Right, I think that's good language.
how do you feel about that, Marcia?
Fine,
As an organic, fine,
fine.
that's kind of, okay,
As an organic reference document.
that's pretty cool, actually.
Okay,
I kind of like that too.
all right.
Okay,
Okay,
do you want to move that way, Priscilla, or?
Okay.
or-
Yes,
Okay,
I move to approve the select board handbook as an organic reference document.
okay, is there a second?
second.
Okay, let's do some voting. Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Kimo,
Yes.
Priscilla,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Woo-hoo. That was a lot of work, Marcia. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hopefully people
Okay.
find it useful.
We could do a little Amazon thing with stars. See if people want to respond.
Great idea.
Okay, now we're on to 6, town clerk spending request for land record books. I think our town clerk is on Zoom. Lily, would you like to speak to this? If you're there?
Sure, I am running out of land records books. These are the people we normally order from. So I'm just looking for approval to spend from my restoration fund to buy some more.
Sounds very straightforward. Any questions?
No.
Beautifully done. Let's just vote on
Okay,
that.
let's have a motion then.
I move to approve the expenditure of up to $1,405 from Fund 45, Restoration and Preservation for the purchase of 5 blank land records books and paper.
I second.
I
Okay,
just had a quick question.
yep, Marcia?
It says, instead of the usual form that the town manager's office has, Lily did something else, and it says Fund 45 has about 37,000. So I'm just wondering, are there any outstanding things just that haven't come through yet that are going to deduct from that 37,000?
Barring the raisable table for the scanner, no, and I think it's actually at 43,000 now. I just don't like to bother Barry when she's busy. And
Oh,
I have access to look at it myself.
okay. We always like, good numbers. Anyway, thanks. Let's go forward.
Sounds like there's sufficient funds though for
Yep.
this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Emo,
Yes.
Priscilla,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay,
Thank you, Lily.
thanks, Lily.
Thank
Now
you.
the Norwich Fire Department spending request. And I think there was just a little bit left that needed to be spent for gear, is what it sounds like. Chief Northern here, there he is. Would you like to speak to this?
Certainly. Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's summer is going well. Not much to add from what I've presented to you here. There was a discrepancy in the amount owed, and that was due to, rising costs of gear. So we're asking to make up the 372.16 that we owe from Fund 26.
Okay, any questions?
Just fine.
It's good. All right, is there a motion?
I move to approve the expenditure of $372.16 from Fund 26 fire equipment to cover the additional cost for fire department gear.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we're gonna vote. Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Emo,
Yes.
Priscilla,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, thanks, chief.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Mary,
Are-
may I make a comment before we move on?
Sure.
Okay, this is, I think, related to the spending request. That's why I want to make it here.
Okay.
So as you're aware, we have been working on this purchasing policy update for quite some time. We now have a VLCT model policy that has been updated as of the middle of July, which we're considering as maybe the safer process, is just to, again, kind of duplicate the VLCT that we know has been vetted and is being supported by that organization. My question is this: I have found no reason why designated funds are required to come before the select board for approval. And I ask that because obviously this is a fairly small amount of funding coming out of a designated fund that requires the chief to submit the paperwork and this to go before the select board. And I do vaguely recall having conversations about this during my tenure, but I can't find anything. I've asked Barry to research. She hasn't been able to find anything required by statute that designated funds always come before the select board for an approval. So I guess I'm asking that as an open-ended question to anyone on the board who may have more experience with that. Is there, other than it's been past practice for the town to use this kind of in our policy, that we do this?
Emo?
And you don't have
Are
to.
you asking above a certain amount or below a certain amount? Or are you asking?
Well, I think it might make some sense. We can't find anything in statute that says you ever have to pre-approve a designated expense. The select board would always sign a warrant where it would be basically authorizing the expense and reviewing that at some level. I guess I'm thinking for our purposes of kind of expediting small amounts of funding like this, if we did have a cap where it was considered a very minimal amount, where we would not have to go through the process that we have been going through. And if that was supported by the board, we could look at building that into our, our draft procurement policy that we're gonna, refine and present. But again, I'm just questioning, is there something out there that I'm unaware of that would require designated funds get this kind of special pre-approval treatment? And if we don't know the answer to that today, and maybe the answer is there is nothing, but you could certainly send me an email directly and just let me know. I'd like to understand it.
Okay, Kimo?
I had another small question. If this had not been part of a larger $22,000 ask, would this have come in front of us at all? If this was only for a $372?
Yep, it
It
would have
would-
come before you because it's coming out of that designated fund.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
So one thing you might want to consider is just, as Kimo just said, are we talking about the level of funding, or are we talking about that it always has to be documented when it comes out of a designated fund? That's something to keep in mind.
Who would know the rule on this?
That's a good question.
Finance?
I do not know the rule. I mean, I know that it's just been a practice in the town.
Hmm.
But, and it might be, I don't think it's in any of our policies either. I don't think it's in our financial policy, to my knowledge. But it's
Okay,
something I
well,
think to think about when we have an agenda item on it. This is one of the questions that we need to consider. So we could do research in between.
Agreed.
if
I
we
guess,
can.
as I said, I was seeking some assistance if there is any out there with the background before we start creating,
Right.
documents. Thank you.
Marcia, did you have any comments on this?
No, I was just looking at my storehouse of documents here. And I can't find anything yet either, but I'll keep looking and send
Work
one of
on
you
it, yeah.
out.
All right, good. That's helping us get ready for that agenda item in the future. Are we good with this one?
Yes.
Okay. So our next item is Tracy Hall Initiatives Update, and we don't have, I know that Brennan has been receiving quotes for various, for the roof and for the chimney and for this and that. But he's still kind of in the middle of doing research. He may have a more comprehensive report for our next meeting. But maybe we'd like to hear a little bit about that, how that's coming in, and just have a general discussion of what we expect, because we hadn't talked also about getting the architect back in.
That reminds me, we had a possibility of a special meeting to approve funding for, so that we have the roof addressed before the heating season started. And what
Oh, the
happened?
chimney, yeah.
Yeah, what happened with that?
Well, I'm gonna ask Brennan to explain what happened with that, okay? Would you be willing to talk about the chimney and
I am more than prepared to kind of walk through here. I don't think we'll go
Excellent.
into great detail, but yeah,
Yep.
quite a bit has happened here over the last couple weeks. I'll give you the categories here just so people are aware. So we have the chimney at Tracy Hall. And that is a topic that I think we should talk about a little bit tonight, and then have some further talk and discussion about in the future. And then at a prior meeting, I was asked to do some research into the status of the slate roof, the elevator, and then have a discussion with Doug at Studio Nexus about a possible meeting with the select board to talk about visioning for the long-term future. So those are the four topics that I was looking at, and then I want to give a quick boiler update. In fact, I'll do that now. The boiler update is we are moving forward. We are going to be starting the decommissioning of the existing equipment on Monday, the 18th. So that is still, as far as I know, on track and on process to get the propane boilers installed and operational before the early part of October. What tied into that, and all of these kind of meld and mesh together, so bear with me here. What tied into that, and the reason that we had a chimney concern last week where we were actually considering having to hold a special meeting, was because ARC, who's our contractor for the project, asked a company called Chimney Savers, which is a regional and reputable company, to come out and do an inspection of the chimney prior to all of this work beginning. Unfortunately, what they found, that happened on August 31st when they came in to do their inspection.
July 31st? July 31st.
Sorry, yes, sorry, I wrote 8:30. Yeah,
Okay.
7:31. The result of the inspection is that our chimney is currently not suitable for continued use. And that is due to a couple factors. The most, I think, concerning was really a deterioration of the upper part of the exterior chimney, which you can clearly see, from the ground, but with close-up inspection and pictures, it's pretty clear that we've got some serious, degradation that's probably been going on for a long period of time, and we just haven't gone up there and looked at it closely. So that prompted me to have great concern because the original plan for the heating system was that we were going to have two vented exhaust pipes that were going to run up the existing chimney flue and out the top of the building via the chimney. So my concern clearly was, if this is going to take a lot of time to repair and replace, are we still going to be able to do the chimney or the boiler replacement on time? So I'm going to get to that, and I've already answered that yes, we are. So just so folks are aware, the quote for that repair that we got after their inspection was roughly $71,000. So it's a big number. I think a lot of that cost is associated with getting up to the chimney on that slate roof on a 4-story building. So that's just a complex place to get up to, and I think that's a lot of part of the cost anyway. And then they were talking about taking the existing chimney all the way down to the roof line, reflashing, around where the chimney exits the building, and then rebuilding it up to where it is now. So what we've determined after, a couple days of scrambling to figure out how we could still get this to go, was that we could re-adopt a side venting option. And that would basically be boring holes at the lower level there in Tracy Hall. The holes would come out kind of behind where the existing generators are right now. So kind of underneath the town manager's office. And that would meet code. We would have, a safe way to vent the exhaust, and that would not require that the chimney be part of this phase of the project. So that is what we are working with right now, as far as we're moving forward with a side venting option. It's actually going to save the town a little bit of money in the short term because it's a smaller amount of pipe that's going to be used. It's not going to have to go all the way up to the top of the chimney. So we might see a little cost reduction there. And then what it does is buy us some time to really consider what happens there with that chimney. Like, do we just need to get it stable to where it's not going to be a danger with masonry falling off? Do we want to rebuild it again and make it look the way it did? I had an interesting conversation with Chemo earlier today. He suggested, if you're never going to use that chimney again, do you need a chimney? So that's a intriguing idea. So I'd like to explore and think about all of that and bring it back at the future meeting. But right now, that's where we stand with the chimney repair. Does anybody have any questions about that one?
No, but I'm just glad the side venting worked out. I mean, it seemed logical to me because I've seen that in residential installations, but I'm happy that it appears to work for municipal as well.
As
Yeah,
was,
much simpler. Priscilla, and,
Oh,
okay, Priscilla, and then you, Marcia. Marcia, your hands are dark,
Yeah.
but
All
yeah.
Two things. I'm guessing that we don't yet have an estimate for the side venting cost because too early.
no, we do. The side venting costs, we're going to have about a $12,500 credit against the current amount that we had planned to pay ARC.
Much simpler.
It's going to cost less,
Okay, well-
Priscilla, because it's less.
Yeah, no, okay, so I don't know what it's costing, that's all, because I don't know what the credits again. But, and the other thing is, 71,000 sounds horrendous, but just speaking very personally, I was reviewing my own house journal the other day, and we had to rebuild one chimney in my house from the roof to the top, and it's not as big and it's not as high as Tracy Hall. And this was 10 or more years ago. And they thought it was going to cost $10,000 and take 2 weeks, and it cost me $42,000 and took like 8 weeks. So these chimney things can be, they had bricks the mason could crumble in his hands that they took out of my chimney. So, it sounds like a horrifying number, 71,000, but I'm saying it sort of makes sense to me.
Okay.
For the reasons you
Let's,
said.
let's
This is
not use
tricky-
your vendor
trickier
for
thing.
this project.
And, okay, and Marcia, did you want to comment?
Yeah,
Or have a question?
I want to make sure that Brennan and whatever other office is going to be crossed with this ventilation has a carbon monoxide monitor in it.
Oh,
Well, I've been assured, that was our first question, obviously, was, is this safe? Is this something that meets code? It does. I think the downside would be more of an aesthetic, that in the colder months, we're gonna have a pretty visible vapor plume that's gonna come up as this exhaust is exhausted. So, yeah, that's certainly something that we could do and maybe should do.
I think you should.
Yeah, that would be worth
Yeah.
a $20
not that expensive.
wall hanger.
Yeah.
All right, so that's good on the chimney. You wanna
Okay,
Continue?
so I'm gonna move on to the roof. So I was able to contact 3 local slate roofing services, because as you can imagine, that is a little bit of a different animal than an asphalt shingle roof. So there are a couple, I guess, known and reputable roofing companies that specialize in that type of work. I was able to get a hold of all 3 of those. One of them was able to come out very quickly and kind of gave me a informal response that said, in his opinion, the slate looked like it was lying flat. It looked like it was in decent condition. He didn't see any immediate concern. And they have a maintenance plan that we could go on that would kind of be an annual inspection and making sure everything is going okay. But no pressure on necessity to jump into that. I had another firm that did come out and did maybe a little bit of a more comprehensive inspection, sent a drone up, took a lot of photos of the existing conditions. They came back with a hard quote, basically basic maintenance a little over $50,000, a comprehensive maintenance of about $86,000. And then I have 1/3 company that wasn't able to come out until October 1st. So I guess I'd like to give you kind of an idea that one seemed like they thought the roof was okay. One obviously found that there was some immediate concern that we should be talking about. I guess sometimes that's why you have 3 quotes. I'd like to see where the third comes in as far as a problem to be addressed quickly or things look okay, not a priority. I will also add that while they were up looking at the roof, they also did give us some kind of monetary estimates on the chimney, which they noted as well as being in a state of disrepair. And that, if I'm reading their quotes on that, possibly $40,000 to $50,000 for the masonry and the copper flashing, which I wasn't clear of whether that was all the copper flashing across the entire roof or the flashing just around the chimney entrance. I assume maybe it was the entire roof. And then again, another big number of about $42,000 to get a scaffolding set up around. I assume, again, this is going to be scaffolding around the entire roof and a man lift to go with that. So again, I'm kind of giving this as information, and I'd like to wait until October and come back and have a third look at this and then be able to say, this is kind of a recommendation of what we should be doing here in the short term or the long term. So that said, I'm sure there might be some questions there.
Okay, Marcia, I see your hand.
I'm throwing it up there.
Yeah, I see it. Go for it.
So Brennan, do I understand that company number one said it was doing well and company number two was implying that it wasn't doing well?
That's how I would read those two inspection reports. The first one, again, was pretty informal. It was an email. It just said, I looked at the roof and I didn't see any immediate concern. And again, the second one seemed more comprehensive, but also significant cost associated with having them come in and do maintenance.
Okay.
But the second one used a drone. Do we know what the first one used, if anything?
Maybe binoculars.
Or they just look from the ground?
I did not ask if they send a drone up. I assume most of them do right now. I think drones
I
are
hope
pretty
so.
cheap and common, so I would assume so, but I don't think it was stipulated.
And Brennan, is it true that if we're talking maintenance, we're talking an annual expense, like an annual inspection and repair? Is that how that was couched? by the
I think in
people?
the second quote that I referenced, basic maintenance and comprehensive was like they would come in, do all of the work that got it to the point where it was in very solid condition for extended periods of time. So that
So
would be,
it wasn't annual maintenance. It might be for 5 years or 10 years or some specified amount of time, or maybe
Yeah.
there wasn't clear. I don't know.
yeah, again, I think I'd like to explore all of these a little further, but my understanding was maintenance annually would be, yeah, somebody would come out like we would do with a heating system and look at it,
Right.
see if there's anything wrong, make
sure it's
small
okay.
repairs before they become big repairs. But the big number quote there would be actually, coming in and doing work that they felt was
Renovating it.
needed.
Yes, and Marcia, and then so.
Yeah, I'm no expert in this, but when we were living in England, we did have a house with slate roofs, and my in-laws had a house with slate roofs, and we had ours attended once, and I know that my in-laws did, but there was certainly no ongoing yearly maintenance. So it seems a bit,
Yeah, again, there was nothing that said annual maintenance. It said
Mm.
maintenance plan. So
Okay.
it could be every 5 years type of thing.
Okay, thank you. Priscilla?
The only thing I've heard about slate roofs, I mean, they last, they really, really last. But what can happen is sometimes the nails that hold them in can rust. And there's more than one nail. And so it's good if somebody looks at the nails, but we do having rusted nails, and that, I don't know what it costs to get somebody up on the roof to crawl around a bit, but that wouldn't be a big thing. And I don't know how often that would have to happen.
That's another good question. We have a lot of questions, which we should, try to get answers to.
Well,
I
I think I can say for tonight, like I'm not feeling that this is like an urgent, immediate thing that we need
Yeah.
to do like before the winter sets in. I think we'll have some time
True.
to
Okay.
consider it, and that's good because it's obviously a pricey pricey issue. Okay, if we're good with the roof, I think. Okay, so
I have one more comment about the roof. Just if it's really shot, which I don't think it is, it sounds like it's pretty good. But would the town ever consider another kind of roof? And the answer might be no, because it's a historic building and it's a beautiful roof. Or the answer might be, well, maybe like a standing seam roof or something like that. But I would say if it's a really, really poor condition and it would cost, it depends on the cost to replace it and make it whole again. But I'm just, as we're learning more about the costs and the process, it's something that I would want to keep in mind. And it might be something that we'd want the voters to decide if it was an aesthetic and historic value that was being used to decide, as well as cost. So that's just like depending on how this all plays out.
That's a valid question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it is.
but we don't have to get into that yet. There's still, like Brennan says, fine for now. We'll keep finding out more. Marcia? Oh,
are we on the
Sorry.
historic register so that we're limited in what we can do?
The building is not on the historic register. We're part of a historic district and the building's a part of the district.
Okay.
So we aren't really curtailed by changes.
Okay, chemo?
Yeah, so I did meet with Brennan, and I have a lot of experience with old slate roofs like this, and one of the advantages we have is that slate roof is in original condition. It has not been, nobody's gone up and occupied the attic and insulated it and built walls and things like that.
So it's
Which
bad
would-
for slate roofs? Like you're saying ventilation is good for them?
Well, yes, ventilation is good, and if there's ever a leak, nothing gets damaged.
Nothing is wrecked.
And everything gets dried, as opposed to if it's closed in with insulation, it festers and things begin to rot and everything. So it's a very good situation for a long life of that roof.
Oh, that's
And-
interesting.
And because we have people coming and going, looking up at their roof all the time, we don't really have to act like, a university, say, which just wants to get it done and not think about it for 50
Right,
years.
maybe they have a big
So-
donor or something too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I think as long as we keep looking at it, we don't have to do anything right now if we
Right.
don't want to. I would just keep putting it off. And if we start seeing shingles, slide because a nail's rusted or something, then we want to start thinking.
Then we
about
start
it.
acting,
But
yes.
as Brent says, I don't think there's any cause for alarm.
Good.
No.
Well, it sounds like a good idea to have somebody in October, a third company. give
Great
an opinion.
idea.
Yeah, get
Yeah.
some more information.
Keep looking at it and maybe have somebody come every year or two to keep looking at it
Right,
up close and,
yeah,
yeah, can't hurt.
okay.
What type of slate did you say we have?
Oh, did they say that?
Somebody did.
I told you that this morning, chemo, and I don't have it in front of me again.
Oh,
It was,
okay.
it
Yeah,
was
I wanted
from,
to
it was from
research that.
Pulteney. I remember that.
Pulteney,
Oh,
right,
wow.
right.
That's a cool detail. Love
Yeah,
that.
Ah, that's
Quality,
nice.
quality
Slate.
slate.
okay, yeah. Well, some slate lasts forever.
Yeah.
And other slate breaks down over time.
Right,
So I can look.
It was
Okay,
called black,
very
black
nice.
slate. I do remember that.
black
Okay,
slate,
yeah. Pulteney
interesting.
Okay. I can-
Marcia,
Are we finished with that topic or not? Because I found something about designated funds.
something about what?
Designated funds?
Oh,
Oh,
No,
Um,
we have the elevator still and
We have to do the elevator
and
and,
the visioning. Those are the other
and the vision,
things.
yeah.
and we're gonna make that an agenda.
All right.
item?
so
yeah.
if we're done with the roof, the elevator's quick. So I was able to get a hold of Otis Elevator Incorporated, who is the service provider for our existing elevator. They sent two people up last Thursday, and they did I think a pretty thorough inspection of the current conditions. They were aware that we had a circuit board that went out last summer that put us out of operation for an extended period of time. And I had asked, would it be possible to get some sort of a quote by today? They thought they would try, but no promise. I haven't seen anything yet. So that might be something we'll have to talk about at the next meeting if people are interested. And yeah, that's all I can really tell you right now. Okay, the architectural meeting. This is one that maybe we can just think out here this evening. So I had originally, and this was, I think, a month or so ago when this topic came up, asked Doug if he would be available at one of our meetings in August. He's actually, I think, been on vacation here for about a week, so I haven't had any direct interaction with him, but I have asked if he could be here for the 27th. If we wanted to do that. If that doesn't work, I'm assuming he could make one of our September meetings work as well. And I think it would behoove us to come up with the expectation for whatever we're going to engage him in. Because I was trying to explain to him after the meeting what it was the board was looking for him to do. And I was having a hard time kind of articulating exactly what that was. I think it's a visioning exercise or talking about a visioning exercise. I know Chemo has a couple interesting ideas about, renovations or different ways of using the building perhaps that have not ever been really considered. And I guess I just want to make sure that we get as much out of Doug's time as we can. And does it make sense to have him come in 2 weeks? Or should we put this off to a September meeting and have the board maybe create memos as you've done in the past about what this exercise could be? I'm open to either of those options. I just thought the board would want to have some opinion there.
What do you think?
Oh, well, I think I'd love to consider the next 100 years for this building. It served the way it served, probably served really well at the beginning, and it serves okay now. Could it serve us another 100 years? And if it were to do that, what could that look like? I guess I see it as potentially a project that gets the town excited about a symbol of its future, that allows the town offices to work more efficiently, more productively, possibly gives us a slightly more interesting space to meet in. I'd love to get some creative input on what are the ideas. It may be that the way it is now is perfect. It might be what we discover, but it could be that there's something that we'd like to head toward now or in the future. And so these moves that we make, because we spend a lot of money on heating and elevators and roofs and things, we don't paint ourselves in a corner where making this building work for the next 100 years means tearing that stuff out. So,
Right. Priscilla?
It seems to me it would be difficult to include that in a regular select board meeting with everything else. And it would be really preferable if we could just have a time where we said, let's just focus on this one thing and talk with the architect and just not be distracted by all the other stuff we always have to do at a regular meeting and how late the hour is getting and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so.
And maybe we would want to include like invite members of the planning commission to come and have a discussion.
Right. Or a brainstorming.
Yeah,
session.
because I really don't know where to start on this.
Right. Okay, Marcia, what is your feeling?
I think whatever we do should be productive. And so I think whenever you go into something cold, it isn't useful. So I'd like, I guess, to see people's ideas maybe in writing, and then we decide how we want to proceed. Because, there's only 5 of us, and we don't even know if we have another 100 years on this planet, but we probably could do something that's useful for the next 50 years and maybe beyond. But I would like to see us come up with some ideas individually, hash them out at another select board meeting, and then decide how we want to proceed. So maybe look towards September for a time to meet with the architect when we have ourselves come to some more of a consensus about what we think we want to shoot for.
Okay, so we've got the idea of having a separate time to brainstorm, and the idea of each developing our own ideas and expressing them in writing first, right? And then maybe to meet with the architect a little later in the process. That's what I'm hearing. Do we want to? So if we went in that direction, maybe take Brennan's suggestion of writing memos of what you think the scope should be. Do you have a vision for the 100 years? Do you have, I think it was probably 30 years since the last renovation. If it was more modest, and there might be a lifespan of certain things where you could consider 30 years or consider that within the 100 years that you'd have to update it 3 times. So maybe it would be good if we kind of try to gather our at least our initial thoughts on what we want to see. I also think this town is very concerned about value. So whatever we do, I think it needs to be done with value. And the value could be, just controlling the costs, of course. But the value could be more of a legacy kind of thing, like what Chemo's talking about. What is the historic context? What are we moving toward? Do we want to have a building that's the best of the past and the best of the future, that kind of thing. So I would go the memo route, and maybe for the next one, just to kind of get our initial thoughts, and then maybe organize a special meeting.
Great idea.
Okay, so memo,
Okay.
special meeting, maybe some brainstorming in public.
I think we'd want to include the public,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. well,
embrace the
that's a really
public.
great
I mean,
idea.
kind of the way we did with the dogs, like.
That took a while. We're coming into budget season, but at least a special brainstorming meeting or something like that where we could gather some
Yeah.
ideas.
We know how to do that. Put some
Well-
architects in charge.
Okay, we'll put Chemo in charge of that, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm
Okay.
gonna tell Doug, not to plan for the
To hold off.
26th, and we'll have some
Yeah.
more detail that'll help him in a future meeting.
Yes.
that will probably be outside of a regular meeting. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, thank you. And-
I mean, would it make sense for me to talk to Doug about ideas?
Sure, I
just
think so.
directly? Is there anything wrong with that?
I do not have a problem with that. Does anyone have a problem with Chemo talking to
I
Doug?
think that'd be very helpful.
What about Marcia? Marcia, I see your hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think has probably a better, clearer sense of what he'd like to see, but I'm not sure Chemo has a good sense of what the group wants to see because the group hasn't had that conversation. So I think your conversation might be a little premature unless you just want to convey what you'd like to see.
Oh, well, I'm not talking about what I'd like to see. I'm talking about the process. What he would envision as a process. I wouldn't put out my ideas. That would be,
And then what? You,
Sure.
yeah.
then you'd report back.
So
to
he
us.
can come and,
I didn't hear that part, Marcia, I'm sorry.
And then I guess I'm just wondering if the town manager is going to be the interface or Chemo's going to be the interface and how this is going to work.
Okay, so there's that reservation. Priscilla?
Having been married to an architect, my sense is that since most of us really don't know how to go about, when we're not trained architects, how to go about thinking about a building and its uses and into the future and how to plan for flexibility going forward. And that in the stage called programming, where you decide what is it you want your building to do and for how long, it's the critical part before you start designing, is you figure out the program. That architects can help guide people in their thinking, because they'll say, you should think about this, you should think about this, what about this? And it isn't that they're doing the designing on the spot, but they're just trying to help you think about what you want the building to do and for how long. And it might encompass things that are outside of just the building. It might be like, what other meeting spaces do you have in town?
Mhm.
And can you think about those in relation to the kinds of meeting spaces you need to have in this building? I mean, it could be very far ranging, but the reason I don't know where to start is because my sense is that architects are trained to talk to people about how to think about what you're going to need and want.
yeah. And then
Okay,
they can-
So, I'll try and write you a memo, but I don't think it's going to be very useful. I'm not trained like that.
well, you still might have questions about how we should proceed or what you think would be helpful. I mean, it's just like inviting in the public. We're not having a conference of architects. We would invite the public in. What would you like to see in Tracy Hall,
Well, I've been to things where people blue skied and it got like, no, it wasn't useful.
Well, I think we've got to balance useful against public participation, right? But I don't know. We could go around and.
And the other thing I really am going to want is if we can find a plan, a vision at some point. I then want to see like a series of steps of how do we get there. Assuming
Right.
we're not going to be able to do the whole thing all at once.
Exactly.
Some things have to be done before others.
Right,
Some things, it doesn't matter the sequence, others is critical. And I would like to see what that sequence would be. And at least as of some date, like the date we think we might start construction, what do we think each of these pieces is going to cost?
Right.
So that we can try to budget for that.
So in your memo, just say all that,
Oh, okay, okay,
I
thank you.
mean, we've
That's
said it
helpful.
here,
Okay,
but yeah.
all right, okay, that's helpful.
Okay, Marcia?
Yeah, I had the same concern, and that's the question that I asked when the architect was here before. Could we have like a stepped list? And he said no, that basically you had to sort of do the whole project all at once, which to me means we can't afford to do 100-year makeover. We have to sort of decide what we want to do for our 30-year makeover, and it's not going to be as big and grandiose as we might want it, because we won't be able to afford it. But I think the important thing in the first instance will be for everybody to express what they're thinking, and then we can distill it into something reasonable, which we can then all talk to an architect about.
Okay, Kimo?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think a goal might be to end up with a master plan that looks out to the future, that helps you decide as you're making improvements and changes, how you do those now so that they are leading toward a final result.
Yeah.
That's all. It just helps everybody move forward.
Okay,
Like that.
well,
I
let's,
would just
let's
add,
go with,
sorry,
go
Mary.
ahead, Brennan.
I didn't mean to
Yep.
interrupt. So yeah, to the, question about the planning commission, the town plan and how a capital budget fits into that. I mean, that would be a pretty useful exercise if Tracy Hall and renovating Tracy Hall to a level that's going to exceed our finite amount of money that we've set aside. So how would we budget for that over the next 20 years in a capital plan where we could say we're going to tackle X project in this 5-year period, and then we're going to be putting money away every year, and then we'll have enough money to tackle the next project, 5 years later. So
Yeah.
to me,
Yeah.
that's a facilities and utilities plan that would have value. But I think to get there, you would have to have renovation of the town's, main municipal office as an adopted part of your plan, right? So that's your goal. And then the capital piece fits into how do you reach that goal?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, well, go ahead, Kimo.
Nope. I'm done.
Well, I'm just wondering, shall we just go with our idea then of memos and
Yeah.
think about a special meeting to devote enough time to this and then meet with Doug later in September?
Or perhaps Brennan and I could meet with Doug briefly.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, well, just be careful not to have your vision
Yeah, not doing it.
bulldozed so that Marcia feels okay about it.
It's just process,
Right,
just process.
right. I was surprised. Oh, Marcia, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that it's important that Brennan is right there at all of those with you, Chemo, because,
Absolutely.
yeah, obvious reasons.
Yeah,
Good.
goes with
That'll
that.
be a good way to do that then. All right, moving along here. Oh, we're up to approving the minutes. There is a correction to the minutes that when Ernie Ciccatelli was from the listers was talking about the process, I think in the minutes it was described that he was speaking for the finance.
Right,
Yeah.
that's on page 4.
Yeah.
It says twice, says finance committee, and it should
Yeah,
be
so
listers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. You do a great job,
Oh.
Jenny.
Fabulous, Jenny. Are there other questions or corrections?
Oh, yeah, on the 10th page of the minutes,
Okay,
under town manager's report, number 7, we just says Michelle is retiring from the police department. I think it would be good to put her full name in,
oh, yes.
Ilich Dobas.
Okay. I think that makes sense.
What?
What is it, Jenny?
Is that either listed on the website or just someone spelling it out?
She needs a spelling.
Oh,
So that the police, or Brennan, would you mind if Jenny checks about.
But you got the Michelle part right, 'cause she always
Michelle's
spells it with
last
one L.
Oh, then I think it's about
That is
one.
correct, because that part's right.
I think Miranda or somebody could help with that last name.
Yeah, or call the police
You could
chief's
call the police
office.
department.
Call the police department, you get Michelle.
I think it was actually in the report that was in the packet is the full name, I believe.
Is her name? Okay.
Okay, that'll be good.
Whatever.
We're just looking for the name.
Her last name.
Her last name was.
And it's something like ILICH hyphen DAU, baby BAS.
DAUBAS.
DAUBAS.
ILICH.
ILICH.
If you want to say it slowly for Jenny.
So it's ILICH
Hyphen,
hyphen
hyphenated name.
capital DAUBAS.
Okay, thank you.
And Michelle is with one
One
L.
L, and if she got that part, that part's right.
Right,
Okay.
so is there a motion?
Find my motion, see, yeah.
To approve the
Go ahead.
minutes for July 23rd, 2025 as presented,
As
as
amended.
amended.
Yep.
To include, or just as
I
amended.
just said.
As amended is fine. I think.
Fine, I'll second.
Okay. Let's have a vote or any more discussion of minutes?
Is Michelle gone or she's?
No,
still-
no, it's September 1st. And by the way, if the police chief is listening, I hope he's playing a big farewell thank
Yeah.
you party for her. I hope at the police station. I haven't called him up to ask him about this, but it'd be terrible if we didn't. All those sessions she's done on anti-scamming,
Yep.
so amazing,
helpful.
so amazing.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get our voting done.
Okay.
Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Kimo
Yes.
and Priscilla?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, then we're into the warrants. There are many warrants. I think there are 4 to be signed.
Yeah.
Questions on the warrants?
I had one comment.
Okay,
In one of our prior meetings, we got sort of a little statement at the beginning of the financial stuff.
Mhm.
And I don't know if there's a way to give a little introductory statement to what we're looking at with all these things. There's some big expenses. And having some context, particularly the FEMA stuff, a lot of outgoing money, but we don't see any money coming in, and maybe just a little context would be helpful for me.
okay,
In terms of approving large,
large
uh,
amount.
yeah, I mean, if it's possible to do that in the future.
Let's, should we ask Brennan about that?
Do we want to do these one at a time then? I mean,
No, it was just a.
all the separate ones? I mean,
Or maybe we could talk about that at our next meeting when we're talking about financial oversight and process and so forth.
Sure.
Okay, we'll do
Yeah.
that. Okay, does someone want to move this very long motion?
I move to approve AP warrant number 1371 in the amount of $329 to be paid from the Tracy Hall Fund. AP warrant number 1376 in the amount of $447.83 to be paid from the general fund. AP warrant number 1372 in the amount of $24,550 to be paid from the highway equipment fund. AP warrant 1374 in the amount of $419.49 to be paid from the records restoration fund. And AP warrant number 1377 in the amount of $579,081.11 to be paid from the general fund.
Is there a second?
yep, second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we're going to vote. Marcia,
Yes.
Emo,
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yeah.
I'm a yes. Okay, they're right here for us to sign.
Okay.
Receipt of correspondence, there's quite a bit of correspondence.
There was.
We had Matt Sweat included the latest dog rules, including the map.
Right?
First, Tomei responds to the GWI letter regarding
Right.
AC Fibers negotiations. Chris Katuki, questions to the town manager about the finance office overview. Priscilla thanking him, Chris Kutuki for that. And then Brennan and Priscilla went back and forth a couple of times with financial questions. Todd,
And by the way, I did again on Monday, hoping to get the question answered at this meeting, but apparently that's next meeting. Okay.
okay. Todd Morrell, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, expressed frustration with the reappraisal process. And the listers replied to his concerns.
Mhm.
Town clerk had an update. Elfie Forbes thanked us for the process of going through the dog rules. So some
Really sweet of her to write that.
Well, thank you letter.
Yes.
Jan Losbear, as was apparent earlier in the meeting, had correspondence about the capital planning effort that the planning commission is about to undertake. Also, another memo about the charge for the solar siting committee and the affordable housing subcommittee. Harry Falconer, our shared energy coordinator, wrote about electric vehicle charging at the Norwich Senior Center, charging station at Danowitz, counters for pedestrians and bicycles for the Lanyard Bridge corridor, and awareness of the new residential building energy standards. And then we had a message from the town manager to listers to try to clarify the timing for the filing of the grand list, and the listers replied to the town manager. So that was
Right, and they say they're gonna do it on Friday.
right. And there was
Great.
a bit of a, yeah, it's good. It's moving forward, and hopefully we'll be able to meet on the 19th.
Right, at noon.
Yeah, I think one of the listers is in South Dakota, but if she can do a Zoom meeting, because it has to be the day, a business day after the tax rate is set, for the finance director to sort of talk with the listers about the list. So there needs to be some time for that. So if all that falls into place, we'll meet on the 19th and set the tax rate. And then the process of getting mailing of the
Yeah, well, I've had a number of people ask me, even though I tried to put something on the listserv, and Chris Clement tried to put something that was even more detailed on the list. People say, when are we going to hold the money? I don't, what if I go out of town? I don't want to miss. And what I've said, since we're probably meeting on the 19th to set the tax rate, which is a fairly,
Supposed to kick off.
it's basic math. It's not
Yes.
going to be a long, complicated meeting. But I said, then my understanding is that the finance office has to go and then calculate everybody's tax bill, print it up.
right. And
Stuff
we
it.
also have to meet with the listers before,
Anyway, but I've said to them, you have 30 days from when it's mailed
yes,
to pay it. So you're probably not going to owe anything till the third week in September.
right.
And they go, oh, because they're all remembering, we used to have it in by the August 30th.
Right.
And so they're afraid that something's going to happen.
I don't know if
Maybe
maybe
they've lost it and they haven't gotten it.
maybe as a select board, we should put out a little explanation, but we probably ought to set the tax rate first,
Yeah.
but just to sort of explain in simple terms what happened and why it took longer and so forth.
Yeah.
And it's probably not likely to be that way again. I think.
Oh, no, the problem has been the reappraisal has been
Well,
complex.
Now it's mandated for 6 years, so that means 1/6 of the, properties, I guess, have to be reassessed each year, but then it's going to change to a county system, like a regional system.
Really?
Is what the legislature
Really?
has in mind, yeah. Chris Clement actually, in the listserv a couple of weeks ago or something, printed a report from the legislature. So they want to have bigger areas to be assessed, and it's more attractive to assessing firms to do
Yeah.
a lot all at once.
Yeah.
And it kind of professionalizes it and takes, the responsibility. It's just, it may be a smoother process. We'll see.
Well, I heard a comment at the finance committee meeting on Monday night, which I attended, that, oh, no, it didn't have to do with, I don't think it had to do with the appraisers. It didn't. But we were kind of late sending out an RFP for the I remember that was before I was on the board, but it was, in the very tumultuous process, part of our town. When this contract was approved. And I think that's the one that was approved and we didn't have a town manager, and we found Brennan because we had to have a town manager to sign the contract. And I did it in November. We'd only had one bid, and it was, it's not an attractive, Vermont is not attractive to assessing firms, and there aren't a lot of
Well,
assessors.
that might be why the state wants it to be more of a regional,
Yeah.
like a countywide system.
Yeah.
Just to make it more attractive to
Yeah.
bigger firms. So anyway, we're getting through it.
Been a lot of work on the lister's part.
Well, it's been a lot of anxiety, I think, on the finance department's part and the town manager's part of what, just not knowing, and the listers too, of not knowing how and when it's gonna wrap up, but it's moving in the right direction.
It's happening.
It's happened.
It's happening.
Okay, so.
Can I move to adjourn?
No, because we have to receive.
Oh, we have to receive-
correspondence. Then we have to send one.
All right, I move to receive all correspondence.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further comment? Seeing none. Portia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Timo?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes,
I'm a yes. Okay, now Priscilla. you-
now I'd like to move to adjourn the meeting, please.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Vote, Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Timo?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Under 2 hours.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Comment.
Nice, happy. Well, we'll try to see if we can make. our
Recording
meetings more
stopped.
efficient. I did have one, I think we only had one time overrun. It was a little text, and our faithful timekeeper was saying, look, you're spending a little too much time